Hey everybody, Liam McGuire here, and as per the request from Joe Princiotta, and I don't believe this is to be played anywhere other than for posterity. So Joey asked us to write down a few notes or some memories about your father. I'm just choosing to do it this way. I'm not sure if this is what you want, or anyway, it'll be around for all time, long after you and I are gone, buddy. We've had that last pint. And if this is what you want for Princiotta families down the road, well, I'm happy to share a couple stories about your father, your late father. What a man! I met him. I met your folks, and you really formally, even though you were a student at St. Leonard's. But you, as you can see, I figured the best I could do is put the T-shirt on, try and commemorate that much. But you invited my brother Mike to your 11th birthday in May of 1970, if I have my memory correct. This is when you were in the first Princiotta home in Greeley. If there was one before then, I'm not aware of it. This is before Orchard View, all of it. But I do believe you had a pool. And my parents and I and Sean came to pick up Mike at your birthday party. And so we met your parents that night, and it was really the first time I think I talked to you. And because of that, we sort of broke bread, even though it was late in the school year. It really set the table for the following year. And, well, as good fortune would have it, for me for sure, it just began what became just a really fantastic friendship between you and I, and definitely with me with your parents. There's no question about that. As time went on, you see each other's parents and family around and things of that nature. I started meeting, of course, some of your cousins from Montreal, but I think the next real defining moment between me and your dad came a few years later when you were playing midget hockey. And you had told me, now we're students at St. Pius, that you had gotten in it wasn't much of a fight. And I think largely because, not that you backed down, but I don't know, you tried to sucker the guy in or whatever, but I remember you telling me your dad gave you a blast of shit, man, big time. And I believe it was against Metcalf. I know you know this story. You were playing in Manotick, and you told me that you were going this kid. You were going him first chance, next game. I said, I will be there. And I was playing juvenile at the time, a year older, so I'm in juvie, and you're playing midget. And I sat beside your dad, and of course, smoking was allowed in those days. And I always remember the way he, remember the way he held. I don't have a cigar, but the way he held his cigar was kind of off to the side, like this. I remember sitting there, talking in his broken English, exclaiming that you were probably going to give this particular kid a rough ride that night. And I said, well, that's why I'm here, Mr. Princiotta. Just going to see how everything plays out. Anyway, long story short, you fought the kid, you destroyed him, and I raced into the lobby after, just to make sure everything was cool. And you went and changed, and we came out and finished watching the game beside your dad. The next time came really less than 2 years later, when you started having a couple parties at the house. This is going to seem really, really unusual to anybody who's gotten to know me later on in life. But I didn't really have a lot of confidence around girls, in my mid-teens, even toward my later teens, to be perfectly honest. I just really didn't. Anyway, Joe had a party, and there was girls there, like a lot of them. But it was hockey night in Canada, and Montreal was playing the Atlanta Flames. I remember because Guy Lapointe fought Dave Shand. Anyway, the guys, Joe and some of the guys, I remember Tony Gargaro, God love him, guys were trying to get me away from the hockey game and into the party, where there was a little bit of underage drinking going on, and just some music and just some, usual hijinks that you would have at 16, 17, 18 years of age. And I was watching the hockey game. Anyway, again, enter Mr. Princiotta. And he comes in and he sits down beside me and he says, again with the cigar going, well, you don't want to come to the party, And I said, I don't know, Mr. Princiotta, I'm going to watch the hockey game. And He just had an intuitive sense. I think he could tell. I was shy, just not really comfortable in that environment. So weird to say, but so true. It's just the truth. And he sat with me, and the guys, probably Joe from Montreal and some of these guys, I'm sure were there, were coming in and were starting to razz me pretty good. And, I've never been a big guy, but I was starting to get a little pissed off. And, I wasn't comfortable in that environment, but I would have been comfortable in the other one. And I was starting to get a little upset. I think Mr. Princiotta let out a string of Italian at these guys, and they left me alone. And then when the game ended, he just said, "Come on, let's go." And I said, "Okay." I went into the party with him. But up until that time, and really for many years after probably, I don't know that I knew or had met or had become friends with a man who had a bigger set of forearms and a bigger wrist. And, the image of him in the summer with the shirt opened, down a few buttons, in his work boots, getting out of the truck, smile on his face, big man, like just a big, thick guy, and usually with the stogie going, and just always a warm welcome for me. And again, moving ahead, and I'm getting down toward the end of this. Apologize for it being a little long, but Manotick was a small village back in the day, 30 years, 40 years ago, small village. And anyway, the story went around. It was a bit of an altercation, or nothing happened, but that there had been words exchanged in the Mews, right across from the Legion, over by the beer store, by the deli, and that Tony Princiotta was involved with this guy. And I believe, Joe, I don't think you were there. Maybe you were. I was not. But I heard about it because you just hear things in the village. And anyway, whether Joe told me or I just heard it through secondhand or third-hand news, again, because nothing had happened, it dissipated very quickly. Until a few weeks later. And in those days, we used to go to the Legion. We'd start our weekends, me and my gang anyway, we'd start our weekend off at the Legion in Manotick on Friday night because they had happy hour, which really meant 90 minutes. And it was 90 minutes at 75 cents a pint. You're going to drill 10 or 12 into you for fun. And I was in there, and this guy came in. I remember it vividly. Because he made his way over. We were playing pool. We always had a pool table there. We were always playing pool. And the guy came over. He said, "Hey, I hear you're friends with Joe Princiotta." And I said, "Yeah, I am. In fact, sometimes he pops in here. Might come tonight. I don't know." And he said, "Oh yeah." And he takes another swig of his beer. He says, "Yeah, I'm the guy who had words there with his old man." And so I stopped playing pool. And I look up at him. And I'm going, "Really?" And he says, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, obviously nothing happened because you're still here to talk about it." He didn't really like that. And he says, I'll give him credit. He did kind of smile a little bit, and he said, we were going at it pretty good over whatever. And then he got out of the truck, and I'm going, okay, this is going to escalate. We're going to get into it. And he said, I didn't really think anything of it until he put his cigar down in the front seat, and he turned around and he said, "Uh-oh." And so I just took a look at the size of his hands and his forearms, and he said, "Let's call it a day, sir. Let's just let this one go." Anyway, I always thought that was kind of a neat Manotick story involving Tony Princiotta. So there's sort of about a 15 or 20 year window of him sort of interacting in one way, shape, or form in my life. He was him and his blessed wife, Joe's mother. He's just, I mean, they treated me like family. There was a period of years there where I certainly know Tony Gargaro or some of the others probably on this list in terms of being that close of a friend with Joe, but there was a period of years there where we hung together quite a bit. And we were ripping pretty good. Joe joined Readoview as a junior member in the late 70s. Now he's 20, I'm 21. I mean, that's a pretty good run that decade. And then you get into the 80s and some of the other stuff that I told you about. So I miss him. It's we're sending this out. It's on the coming up on the anniversary, 20-year anniversary of his passing, which is hard to believe, except I can put it in context because I lost my own dad, 26 years ago. And I will say that night in 1970 when they talked, and both my parents spoke very highly of meeting them. And I think there was a kindred spirit felt immediately between Joe's dad and my dad. They were both immigrants. Joe's dad, of course, from Italy. My dad right off the boat from Dublin, Ireland. And I think there was some synergy, some symmetry, whatever you want to call it, between them all the way back to that night. Not that they became friends and going to dinner parties or anything, but anytime they would have seen each other again around the village in those days, there was an immediate recognition and a warm hello, and that extended right through till my dad, Joe's dad, and our lives, moving on. So happy to share a couple words and to toast his memory in the best way I can with a shot of Jameson's Irish whiskey and St. Leonard's, where Joe and I were when I had the occasion to meet that great man. And here's to his memory. Here's to all the Princiottas who watch this down the road. Take care. God bless. G'day.